Pues gente, la integración de Black Ops 6 en Warzone es en muy poquitos días y después de todo este revuelo polémica que ha habido con este tema del audio, pay to win y demás, que veremos cómo afecta esto a Warzone, se me ha ocurrido la idea de repasar todos los elementos pay to win que ha habido en la historia de Warzone, que creo que puede ser un vídeo bastante interesante. Así que se me vengan a la cabeza ahora la skin de Rose, la skin de Groot, la del árbol, la mira térmica de la Cronen Squall de Warzone 2 y vamos a ver qué más sale por aquí.
COD has seen its different variations of pay-to-win mechanics with supply crates and DLC guns in previous installments, so it was only a matter of time before the pay-to-win experience with Gray's Warzone. So today we're going to go through the entire history of pay-to-win in Warzone. I'm only including items from the premium battle pass or the store itself, so that means no DLC guns will be on this list since those are free to everyone, but just might take you a little bit longer than those who pay for it.
Hombre, la skin de Rose no podía faltar, gente.
I think this was the very first example of pay to win in Warzone and was a camper's dream. In Season 4 of Modern Warfare 19, which is pretty much the first season of Warzone, the Rose skin was available at Tier 100. The skin was notorious for being extremely dark in an already not very vibrant map, and truly gave you an unfair advantage by blending into your surroundings. Rose also gained the rep vibrant map.
También es cierto que tiene el juego bastante oscuro, ¿eh? Este tío, a lo mejor es de consola, porque me acuerdo que en consola el juego se veía algo más oscuro, pero es que la Rose igualmente no se veía nada, aunque tuvieses el brillo al máximo. Es que era negra, ¿eh? Mira, este tío tiene el brillo súper subido y está aquí, que se ha visto un píxel de que está la Rose aquí escondida y este sí que tiene el brillo subido, que era lo que se estaba diciendo.
Is a sweat skin in Warzone, but was quickly claimed by the rats and was abused by corner campers because it essentially granted you invisibility. There would be many times where you would just see bullets coming towards you from a Rose skin corner camper and still not even see the Rose skin while they're actively shooting you. They eventually nerfed the skin to make it a little more vibrant and it helped a little bit, but
es que aparte con todas estas partículas y humo que hay siempre volando por Warzone que no te deja ver bien, si aparte de esto le sumas una skin que se camufla con el ambiente, pues obviamente está aquí y con el humo no ves una mierda.
Still advantageous nonetheless. I mean seriously, these before and afters, there's like barely a difference. Regardless if you want to believe it or not, I firmly believe that this was a subtle marketing tactic to drive up their battle pass sales since you have a very sought after skin to be rewarded with, and at level 100 at that.
Oh, me acuerdo de esto, la skin de la Mac 10 que tenía más daño.
Blueprints have been a very interesting concept to Warzone and do a good job of creating exclusive camos and effects for specific guns without changing any core stats of the gun itself. Wrong. The Mac 10 got a gallantry blueprint that was pretty mid at best as far as the aesthetic, but when tested was dealing significant more damage than the base Mac 10.
Quitaba 10 más a la cabeza, 9 más al pecho, 9 más al estómago y 8 más a las piernas y a los brazos.
The headshot damage was a whole 10 points higher, which chain reacted limb, chest, and neck damage to also be way higher. To put in perspective how broken this was, shooting someone in the pinky toe with this blueprint was the same as shooting someone in the head with the base Mac 10. That means that every single one of your shots, at least, was going to do the same damage a headshot was going to do on a normal Mac 10. And if you're hitting anything but limbs, you were doing more damage than a normal headshot would do. So yeah, guaranteeing the shortest TTK ever with the Mac 10, no matter where you're hitting them. That moment
eso sí que fue el terror de Warzone, eso,
headshots, deleting your opponent is satisfying, and using this blueprint was pretty much always having a moment like that. And we all know the Mac 10 was a very broken meta SMG in the first place, and even after a handful of nerfs was still pretty viable throughout the rest of Warzone, but letting this blueprint see the light of day definitely gave it an extremely undeserved comeback.
DMZ Zombies Pay to Win. Ah, vale, los elementos de la tienda que te daban ventajas en DMZ, rollo UAVs y cosas de estas, seguro.
If I'm being honest, I've loaded up DMZ like once ever since it launched, but this mode is almost completely pay to win after doing research for this video. Pay to win may be a stretch, it's honestly more of like a pay to convenience yourself and kind of expedite things. And what I mean by that is there is a ton of operators and blueprints that give you an inherent advantage in your gameplay. There are smaller things such as spawning with a 2-plate carrier or self-revive. There's other things that I think are a little egregious, such as spawning in with a medium backpack or a whole UAV at your disposal.
Lo de tener un UAV me parece demasiado roto, que tú tengas un UAV y el enemigo no lo tenga. O sea, es que te da una ventaja en un juego así algo más lento, donde la información lo es todo. rotísimo.
If I'm not mistaken, it's like unlimited UAVs, which like, I don't
¿Ilimitado?
know how
¿Por
that's
qué?
not pay to win. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong, but that just sounds ridiculous. Regardless, that is absolutely without a doubt spawning in with an advantage that you paid for. Then there's also added effect for weapon blueprints that'll give it a reduced cooldown so you can use it again like right after deploying. Like most of them are like 15 minutes, where normally it's like at least an hour, most of the time like 2 to 3 hours, I think. Then there's the active duty operator slots, which you only have 3 by default, and the only way to get more is by buying operators. I'm not even kidding. When you're in the active operator menu, the other slots are literally locked behind a paywall. Like this is straight up, takes you to the store and everything.
Qué mal llevaron DMZ, gente, qué mal. Tenían una oportunidad de oro de hacer un extraction shooter súper guapo, pero bueno, al final pues la cagaron. Ya han venido juegos como Delta Force o Arena Breakout pues a comerse el mercado de los extraction shooter, obviamente junto con Tarkov,
Unlock these slots, which is just another advantage. It would be different if in DMZ it was strictly PvE, but since you can go head to head with others, I find this pretty lame. Modern Warfare 3 Zombies has a similar pay to win features as well, which is also cringe, but that's really all just...
Claro, eso es verdad. O sea, si el pay to win es en PvE, es solo contra ambiente, no contra otros jugadores reales, pues no es pay to win porque no tienes ventaja sobre otros jugadores reales. Así que esto no, sin más, me da igual. Pero claro, si ya es una ventaja en un modo donde hay otros jugadores reales que no pueden obtener esa ventaja a no ser que paguen, eso sí que es pay to win.
PvE, so
Qué mal llevaron de MZ,
like
qué mal lo llevaron.
Vibes. Like if you just want to speed up the process, go ahead and throw some money for these little like boosts. Like...
Es que un extraction shooter de Call of Duty, con el sistema de las armas, cómo se mueven, cómo se sienten las armas, el movimiento de Warzone, la fluidez de Call of Duty, es que lo tenían para reventarlo y al final... liada morrocotuda con el DMZ.
Really, that's not really doing much harm. Whereas in DMZ, in theory, you can always spawn in with a UAV, use that UAV right when you start.
No sé si volverán a intentarlo, algún DMZ 2.0.
Which is just shameless.
No sé, a lo mejor a finales de este año, no sé si lo intentarán. Mira, Hit Source 800. No tengo ni idea qué es esto. ¿Qué es esto?
Thermal sights haven't really seen much viability since the old days of Warzone, where the thermal sniper optics in that game will let you see anyone from any range, and then until they got nerfed. Well, the Damascus Heat Tracer pack gave you a variable of the Heat Source 800, which was probably still the best thermal sniper optic we've seen since the launch of Warzone.
Ya, ni me acuerdo de esto, Sí que es cierto que hay diferencia, a lo mejor no tanto como la SZ holotérmica, que supongo que lo dirá ahora. Pero de esto es que ni me acuerdo de esto.
Warzone 1, the blue dot not only felt like it was crystal clear and also kind of removed clutter from the scope, but the enemies seemed to show up a lot more and carry a lot more vibrancy with them. I'm actually colorblind, so I'm not sure if I'm the one who should be having strong opinions about this, but to me it seems like a noticeable difference, and for some people could definitely take advantage of.
Sí, sí que parece que había un poquito de diferencia. Aparte, la retícula del puntito era súper clean. Remate de Merlin el perro. Ah, me acuerdo que si tenías alerta máxima equipada, si te apuntaban por delante, el perro ladraba, que es cuando ahí no te salta la alerta máxima. Es verdad, no se me había ni ocurrido, no lo había pensado cuando al principio lo hemos dicho.
Dog finisher, and that dog's name is Merlin. Well, Merlin comes with an added perk in the form of a buffed version of High Alert, which is probably one of the most popular perks in the entire game. We all know the High Alert pings your screen from wherever someone is looking you, but the one time it doesn't do this is when someone's right in front of you, or obviously when someone's using cold-blooded. Well, with Merlin equipped as your finisher, that's right, this is the only finisher on this list. Whenever someone in front of you aims at you, you'll get a bark from Merlin.
Esto es un pay to win clarísimo, Me acuerdo que había gente como defendiéndolo, ¿no? O excusándolo, pero es que te da una ventaja clara sobre los otros jugadores. Es que, si no, muchas veces hubieses muerto si el perro no ladraba. Entonces, eso es tener una ventaja. De eso, por lo tanto, es pay to win.
I didn't even see the guy aiming at him until I rewatched that video like 3 times. If this was me in this scenario, had Merlin not barked, I would never have known someone was in front of me, which is a common occurrence in Warzone. In Warzone, the map is huge and it's easy to miss players, and High Alert going up to 100 meters is a considerable distance, especially when it's right in front of you. This is especially useful for when people are using sniper optics that don't have glint. The only downside to this perk is that the dog is audible to other players, and with that results in enemies being able to hear it, which could give away your position maybe. But I would argue that the benefit benefit is far greater than the negative here, making it a true pay-to-win item. I don't even know if you can still use this in Warzone 3. I know all items transferred from Modern Warfare 2, so unless they change this behavior, you can still use this. But someone comment if you can still use this.
¿Se puede seguir usando? No veo a nadie con el perro, así que diría que ya no funciona así, supongo. Es que hace meses que no veo a nadie con el perro, la verdad. Vale, la SZ holotérmica. Esa es la del pack de la Cronen Squad, que eran en rojo. Me acuerdo, eso sí que me acuerdo.
Alongside the
Aparte hice un
Merlin
vídeo
dog
de
in
esto.
Season 5, we also got the Dark Rituals Tracer Pack, which came with the blueprint for the Cronen Squall. Also in this Tracer Pack, literally every element about the DMZ pay to win is present here. You've got, like,
aquí sí que había diferencia con la mira térmica, pero una locura,
weapon cooldowns, literally all of it's going on here. Just thought that was kind of funny. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the SZ Holotherm that was part of the blueprint. Now, we've already discussed how useless thermals have been since Warzone 1, but if you were going to use any thermal sight on an AR, it was going to be this one. It was honestly decently clean, and since Warzone 2 is really
Esta es la
heavy on the
normal,
smoke grenade
digamos.
meta, this had its fair share of viability. However, this Dark Rituals Holotherm, the optic was just
Y
flat
esta es
out
la pay
better.
to win.
I'll just let this comparison of the two let it speak for itself.
Viendo esto ya, creo que no hay muchas dudas, que se ve mucho mejor, muchísimo
I mean,
mejor.
it's really easy to tell. I can't really pinpoint why this looks so good, other than the Dark Rituals actually filling out their character model, whereas the regular one just kind of shows an outline, and honestly barely even does that.
Pero todo el de la izquierda, sí, sí, el de la izquierda se notaba una barbaridad la diferencia.
Pretty much when you're aiming at anything that's not a player, it still looks really clear and clean. And then even on top of that, when someone's using cold-blooded, the Dark Rituals Holotherm pretty much gets nerfed to like the regular Holotherm, whereas the regular Holotherm gets completely useless. Similar story here, not sure if you can still use this or if they nerfed it or changed it whatsoever, but this is probably really good if you're going for a nuke.
Yo creo que sigue igual, ¿no, gente? Yo creo que sigue igual la mira SZ. Yo diría que sí sigue usando. Escopeta Doom. Sé qué escopeta es, pero que mataba más, tenía más daño.
I already know that the Doom shotgun bundle had no attachment or characteristic that you couldn't do with the normal Lockwood 300, but I feel like it was worth mentioning since it played a heavy role in bringing the one-shot shotgun to everyone's attention. I'm pretty sure this bundle also didn't tell you what attachments were being used and just took over your shotgun without telling you that the dual trigger was the reason for the one-shot. So regardless if it was pay to win or not, people were definitely convinced it was pay to win, and many bought this for that sole reason. Also, on a side note, this is probably one of my favorite blueprints because Doom is awesome and these animations are sick.
Hostia, la skin de Groot. A ver, la escopeta estaba rota por el accesorio del gatillo de doble cañón que te mataba de una. Pero la skin de Doom no mataba como de más lejos ni nada, ¿verdad? Creo que no lo ha dicho, así que diría que estaba rota básicamente por el accesorio del gatillo doble o no sé cómo se llamaba, algo así. La skin del árbol, que hice un vídeo y también había gente defendiéndolo. Y es que depende de dónde se pusiese, no se veía absolutamente nada. Y después la tuvieron que nerfear.
The Groot skin was introduced towards the end of Warzone 2's
Como si
life
pusiese
cycle,
en árboles, arbustos o algo así.
For a couple of different reasons. Aside from being really hard to see, what I thought was different about this is that it was like just overall smaller, it felt. Now I know the hitbox stays the exact same, but that doesn't exactly make it easier for the player to hit them when your brain is still going to want to shoot at what's visible. I know there's a ton of people out there who think that its hitbox was actually smaller, but there's little to no evidence to support this, so that's just like not a thing. Anyways, if you were playing when this dropped, it was pretty awful time to be around, and eventually they took it out of the game and they gave it kind of a rework similar to what they
Hombre, a ver, aquí se ve bastante, ¿no? O sea, este ejemplo no es muy útil.
did with the Rose skin, only this time I do think it was like really dramatic. Instead of just updating on the spot like they did with Rose, they had to completely vault the skin from the game, so that's how you know it was just really bad.
Ah, el Black Noir, que es la skin que ahora todo el mundo usa en lugar de la Rose. Es más, leí una estadística que en el Mundial Presencial de Warzone los 120 jugadores usaron la skin de Black Noir. Los 120, todos. Y la de LA Thieves, que después le tuvieron que poner como esto más rojo o algo así, ¿verdad? O las sombreras o algo así de color rojo, creo.
The closest thing to the Rose skin we've had aside from Groot would probably the LA Thieves skin. Pretty much the same idea with the whole blacked out getup. Don't want to go too in depth because we've already talked about a couple skins being OP. They eventually added like super vibrant red straps to the backpacks and made the logo even brighter. And like also goggles, which is just the right way to nerf these kinds of skins. I'm gonna go ahead and give Black Noir an honorable mention here, even though I don't think it's all that bad, especially when compared to the other ones on this list. Just figured I'd lump it in here while we're talking about it.
Spare Ribs, paquete de trazadoras. ¿Alguien sabe qué es esto? A mí es que ni me suena, no tengo ni idea.
Now, if I'm being honest, I think...
Ah, Hostias, me acuerdo que estas skins la usaba todo el mundo en el competitivo, que eran invisibles y la podías llevar si querías con la mira de hierro, porque podías ver perfectamente.
This one is a stretch, but if used
Esto era con la DG58, ¿era, gente, creo?
correctly, it puts you at an advantage, I guess. The Spare Ribs Tracer Pack, which was applicable to the LSW and the WSP9, which as of me recording
¿Ves? Esto era invisible, lo de los lados, entonces te podías permitir el lujo de llevarla sin mira porque tenías muchísima visibilidad, porque la parte de los lados era invisible y podías ver a través.
are very much so in the meta right now.
Ni me acordaba de esto ya,
allowed the player to see more on their screen.
Y de esto no hace mucho, porque me acuerdo de castear torneos hace poquitos meses donde todo el mundo con la DG58 con la skin invisible, todo el mundo la llevaba prácticamente todos.
If you're using iron sights, and well, since your gun was transparent, it was kind of hard to use the iron sights. The only real way to
Bueno, sí, más que invisible, transparente, sí, creo que es la palabra correcta, no invisible como tal, porque algo se veía, pero era transparente.
fix this was by using a camo to brighten it up, and at that point, I think you're kind of defeating the purpose of using the blueprint in the first place. But there's a lot of people right now who are kind of like swearing up and down this is pay to win and just like a really broken mechanic, which I don't know if I'd ever go that far. There's also a handful of other blueprints like this, but this is the one that's kind of just like all the rage right now, so I figured I'd talk about it.
Skins de XP. ¿Esto era que si jugabas con un amigo o algo así te daban más XP o a lo mejor jugando solo ya te daban XP? A ver, ¿cómo era esto? Me suena, algo así, pero no... que jugando con colegas era verdad, ¿no? Si tu colega usaba el mismo pack de skins, ¿no?
Have an added double XP effect if you're playing with friends using the same skin. The more you're playing with, the more it goes up, all the way up to double XP. Now, usually when I'm playing Warzone, it's with a full squad, like you will rarely catch...
A ver, esto realmente no lo considero pay to win porque no tienes una ventaja que el resto no pueda conseguir jugando realmente. Pero bueno.
Solo queuing. So that means that whenever I'm playing, I can pretty much always have double XP, and this mark...
Tampoco me parece algo tan grave como doble experiencia, que es algo que no se nota, digamos,
marketing tactic is so clever that me and my friends bought the web skin the second it dropped. I mean, I can't even blame them here because you're getting 4 variations of the same skin that just look ridiculous, and it gives you double XP, so that's just free money for Activision. But it kind of like defeats the charm of like ranking up and kind of like grinding your guns, and really like it used to feel like you had to really just go for it, and now that's kind of just like stripped away. I really don't think this is like a crazy pay to win scheme. It's kind of more like a pay to convenience thing, like I was talking about before. But I can still see why this is sour for other people.
VPN Pay to Win. A ver, claro, te la compras si tienes bot lobbies, ¿no? Pero no es culpa de Activision como tal, ¿no? Podríamos decir. Bueno, lo podrían intentar combatir, pero...
This is honestly a really stupid entry on here because it really has nothing to do with Activision or Raven or like Warzone at all. This is all external. But if it's what it's come to, it's kind of like highlighting how skill-based matchmaking kind of ruined COD, and COD should maybe like go back to the way things were. Also, I've never used a VPN, but if that's your thing, I mean, so be it. I'm not going to stop you. Just don't lie about it. Really just putting this in here for the meme of it. But that's every pay-to-win item in Warzone history. Let me know if you think these are actually pay-to-win or if I'm...
Yo creo que casi todo, sí. Vamos a ver, gente, qué pasa con el audio pay to win en Warzone ahora cuando haga la integración con Black Ops 6, y veremos qué pay to wins van a meter en este Warzone, este nuevo Warzone con Black Ops 6, porque alguno cae seguro, ya veréis.